Hello and welcome to On the Beat, a behind-the-scenes look at how the Fairfax County Police Department works within your community. The men and women of our force are sworn to serve and protect Fairfax County, its residents, and its laws. Think police work is black and white? Think again. Criminal behavior is not always caused by criminal intent. In this episode, we'll take a look at a new interagency effort to redirect people suffering from mental illness from jail and into programs that address their issues directly. I'm your host, Detective Sean Carroll, and today we're on the beat. We tend to think of police work in absolute terms. Officer observes criminal behavior, officer arrests the perpetrator, and perpetrator enters the justice system. Cut and dry. But it's not that simple. Criminal behavior is criminal behavior, and yes, it should always be stopped. But what if the criminal behavior in question is a result of mental disorder and not criminal intent? Is jail the right place for the mentally ill? Fairfax County has begun to take a proactive role in addressing this issue. Enter the CIT, or Crisis Intervention Team, equal parts Police Department, Sheriff Department, and Community Services Board. The Crisis Intervention Team combines the missions and expertise of its partner agencies to recognize those with mental illness, divert them from jail, and set them on paths to better options. With me today to talk about the Fairfax County Crisis Intervention Team is Lieutenant Ryan Morgan. Lieutenant Ryan Morgan grew up in Fairfax County and joined the police department in 1994. During his career, he served in various patrol assignments, the Public Affairs Bureau, and the Planning and Research Bureau, before being selected as the Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator. Ryan, welcome to On the Beat.
Thank you, Sean.
So we're here to talk about CIT, Crisis Intervention. The first question that people want to know is, what is a mental disorder, and how do we identify it?
Wow, it's a million-dollar question. Even the foremost authorities don't understand exactly how the mind works. And as a police officer, I'm in no better position to answer that question. But I will tell you that my understanding is that the mind and the brain is the most complicated thing in the universe, to include the universe. And as a police officer, what we're really trying to nail down are the behaviors associated with mental illness.
Okay. Does it make them more prone to violence?
No, I think all the studies will show is that people living with mental illness are no more violent than anybody else.
Okay.
And quite frankly, they're probably more likely to be victimized than the normal population, just because there are some that don't have the social skills that are needed to sort of get through life.
So with CIT, the purpose of CIT, divert them from going to jail to get them mental assistance and services?
The jail diversion is a big part of the CIT program. There are some people who have mental illness who do commit crimes, but there are some crimes that are so low in nature and they really don't cause a disruption to society. For instance, a homeless person who's trespassing in a county park after dark.
Right.
Could the person go to jail? Sure.
They're breaking the law.
They're breaking the law,
right.
But should they go to jail? And those are some of the things that the officer has to weigh when he's doing his investigation. And, at one point, the only option was jail. Now, through our Diversion First efforts, officers have an option. They get a training course in clinical states, and it doesn't make them doctors or able to diagnose mental illness, but it just kind of gives them a perspective to look at. Officers have an opportunity to experience what it's like to live with schizophrenia. They put these earbuds in, and it plays a recording that simulates schizophrenia. And it's really troubling for some officers, and it really gives them a better perspective of what it's like to have to live with that mental illness.
Look at this, look at you. Because you're nothing. You're still doing nothing. They know what you're thinking. All the people.
How does the CIT officer recognize a person with mental illness? They arrive on the scene of a call, they get inside.
I tell you first, just like any case, you need to get a little bit of intelligence first. The officers are going to ask friends, family, whoever's there on scene, what are you experiencing? How is this different than normal behavior that the person may be exhibiting? And it's much more than that. The officer needs to really take their time. These cases are really they take time. It's not like a simple report. You're dealing with human emotions and
from both sides,
from
right?
both
From
sides, sure.
From the patient and the family member as well.
Sometimes the person will tell you that they need help, and they're just looking for it, and they don't know what to do. And so the officer has the ability to get them that help that they're looking for. We can't really make a whole lot of promises, but we can offer them those resources that maybe they hadn't thought of.
So what is the Maryfield Center and what goes on there?
There are a lot of mental health resources at the Maryfield Center. The part that the police department occupy is on the lower level in this little area called the Maryfield Crisis Response Center. That's the emergency services section, and that's where you're going to find a lot of the interactions that police and the CSB.
That goes in hand with the three agencies now that are flowing together. We have PD, our police department, the sheriff's department, and
CSB. And each of them are integral. We absolutely could not survive without one or the other. And I work very closely with my sheriff's counterparts and CSB counterparts.
What is the role of the sheriff's department? How does that differ from the police side?
Well, they're in charge of the courts and the jail, and you can imagine that they have a population that they have to deal with. But as far as the sheriff's working with the PD at the Maryfield Center, it's really important.
The Sheriff's Office contribution to Diversion First and the Crisis Intervention Team Program is simply we devote a lot of time, a lot of effort, and actual deputies to this program, whether it be interacting with those with mental illness or suffering from a mental health crisis out at Maryfield and assisting Maryfield and with their evaluations and moving that individual to possible hospitalization. We also are involved when it comes to transporting those with mental illness to hospitals that may be out of the Northern Virginia area. And these are hospitals that could be 2-3 hours away. So we have a lot of deputies that are CIT trained that interact with individuals that have mental illness, and they spend a lot of time with them, whether it be transport or just interacting with them and helping them receive the services that they need. When we actually get involved, and what I mean by we is the first responders, law enforcement, the community itself, in CSB, when we get involved with the individual, everyone is actually going to touch that individual in some kind of way. This is just not a one department or one agency movement here. Even if you don't have anyone that you know that has a mental illness and you're not personally connected with it, I think just overall as a human, we all want everyone to receive the proper services and treatment that they need in order to get better.
When a person comes to the Maryfield Center under emergency custody, the clearinghouse for those type of cases is the CSB, the emergency services section. And so the mental health clinicians and the doctors, they'll do an evaluation to determine what level of care is needed for the individual.
So it takes our assessment to first determine that there's a mental health or substance use requirement met. And then from there, we're looking to determine if the individual has risk issues that meet the need for inpatient treatment. And that would be risk of harm to self or others, or really a gross inability to care for oneself. And then from there, we determine if a less restrictive option is available. So we have crisis stabilization units in Fairfax County that we can utilize. We can talk to the individual about voluntary hospitalization. We could link that individual to outpatient treatment sometimes within an hour. A diversion from jail is not always the right choice. There are certain instances where somebody with a behavioral health disorder has committed a crime serious enough that warrants prosecution and whether it be in the jail or prison sentence afterwards, but they actually have to pay for that crime. Now, what we see is that when you have individuals that have a high recidivism rate for what we would term low-level crimes, trespassing, maybe petty larceny, and it may be due to a behavioral health issue that kind of goes to their lack of intent in that crime, then what we're looking at is, well, let's get to the root of the problem. If we have a recidivistic individual through the criminal justice system, instead of always addressing the symptom of the crime, why not actually divert the individual and address the root of the problem, which may be that behavioral health issue, and then find the appropriate level of treatment?
Being CIT certified yourself, can you give me an example of maybe an incident you came across?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this past Monday, just heading into work, I'm in a police car, I'm in full uniform, I'm at the intersection and a call comes out. And knowing the area, I know that it's literally 1 block away.
Okay.
My heart was pulled to go to that call, and so I turned the steering wheel, and I happened to be the first one on scene. And there I meet a man who had a black eye. He was a bit disheveled, and he was having a hard time in life. And it was really concerning when you start talking to him, man, and he asks you to shoot him. That's a very heavy topic, and he further advised, he had run out of medicine and he was feeling really reckless. So I was able to talk to him. I truly believe I had a really good rapport with him. And
So your skills just kicked in?
I was definitely utilizing the skills I had learned. The man was looking for some help. Other units had come and were able to help facilitate the transport to Maryfield, but it's really rewarding to see the program work.
When a resident calls 911, can they request a CIT officer to show up?
Sure. There are times if somebody's house is getting broken into or there's some other law enforcement faction, you'll take whoever is available. But there are those times where it's a crisis stabilization type call for service. And what I would like everybody to know is that you should ask for a CIT officer. They just have an additional skill set that'll help de-escalate those situations with more predictability. Not saying that other officers can't do it, but the CIT officers have had the training, and I know it works.
What are the long-term goals for the CIT program in Fairfax County?
Well, the long-term goal is to get officers trained. It's very important that officers have the skill sets to be able to de-escalate these situations, quickly and effectively. And I truly think that as more officers get trained, the health of the community overall is going to be better.
Okay. And how many officers do we have trained currently?
Right now, we've trained just about 200 officers, with the expectation of training many more.
Okay. And that's with the Sheriff's Department as well?
Absolutely.
Added into that. Outstanding. Outstanding. That's going to do it for this edition of On the Beat. Thank you, Lieutenant Moyer, for joining us.
My pleasure.
My thanks to the officers of the FCPD Public Affairs Bureau for bringing us this important topic. And thanks to you, our viewers, for joining us on The Beat. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and sign up for the FCPD News blog for community safety information and alerts. Our non-emergency phone number is 703-691-2131. And always, in an emergency, call 911 if you can, text if you can't. We're always ready, always here to serve you.